Okay, hello, I'm Ian Drumm. I work with these two guys in acoustics research and soundscape research, effectively. Um, Basically, I'm going to talk about a way of emulating soundscapes, a way of recreating soundscapes in different environments where we can actually test people and we can approach it from a very reductionist way where we're, oh, a picture of some of my ex-girlfriends have popped up. They're always finding me on Facebook. It's it's an interesting one, this, because sound is basically a 3D thing, and we've evolved to basically perceive sound in a 3D way. Hence big ears. If sound comes from that way, the ears can attenuate sound in different ways depending on which ear it comes to, and you can localize the sound. Traditionally, to recreate a soundscape, we had stereo, which you stick a couple of speakers in the room and you create the illusion of sound arriving at the right time by warping up one speaker relative to the other. This idea of panning, you create an illusion of the sound there. Another way is to use headphones, and this particular character here actually is used to measure the binaural responses of our ears, basically how our ears process sounds in different directions. Obviously, with speakers, you have some limitations in terms of realism. With headphones, you have to wear headphones. Expanding the idea, this is an example of what we call high-order ambisonics, where you record a soundscape using a set of microphones that are at different positions in the tetrahedron, and they basically give you different aspects of the soundscape in 3D that you can then decompose and then recompose artificially. However, the stuff that I and some of my colleagues have been working on, it involves actually using more than just decomposing sound fields. It's trying to recreate a space in which people can experience a sound field rather than somewhere that pertains to a sweet spot, the space where you have to be. So we're using lots of these speakers to create what we call a wave field. So here's a colleague of mine, Rob, who's done a lot of work on wavefield synthesis, and we're working together to create new kinds of wavefield synthesis. Ones hopefully that we can then put into people's homes and public spaces and so on. So we're trying to find optimizations. This is some of the kit. Expensive, but not that expensive. This comes to about £50,000. Okay, the point of wavefield synthesis is that I'll just ignore the slides. Here's one of our wavefield synthesis systems in an anechoic chamber. The point of wavefield synthesis is basically it creates a space where different people within the soundscape can experience the soundscape together from their point of view. So if I hear somebody over there, I can experience them as being over there, but if they hear me, they experience me as being in my position. So instead of a sweet spot, you've got a collaborative space where people can experience the soundscape together and do whatever they do in a soundscape in that collaborative space. So it provides an ideal environment for building up soundscapes and seeing what elements are going to affect people and what elements aren't. Basically, it involves a lot of audio hardware, a lot of dedicated hardware. We've got systems that go from 8 channels to 128 channels. The one you saw before was a portable system, which is 64 channels, and it's actually portable in the sense that it takes 3 people to get it into a van. So the way we do this is we take a sound source, like a mono-recorded WAV file, and we send it to all these different loudspeakers at different times with different amplitudes. And there's a bit more to it than that. You also have to do this very expensive filtering that involves what we call recursive filter design. But we can emulate soundscapes. Another aspect of what I do is modeling these soundscapes as well, and modeling how these sound systems will recreate the soundscapes. So for instance here, this is what we call a finite difference time domain model, where you can see sound waves in terms of red, high pressure, blue, rare refraction, and you can see these waves moving, being generated by these artificial sound speaker systems, these wavefield synthesis systems, and then the hall and the reverberant space then sort of affecting that sound field. And what we can do with this is we can assess the effect of the hall on the recreation of the soundscape. So if we can mitigate for that, then we can move these things out of anechoic chambers and into real spaces to emulate soundscapes somewhere else. This is a bit more sophisticated in the sense that here I'm voxelizing a human being and putting him in the soundscape, and he's experienced what we call a focus source. So there's a load of speakers basically create a load of waves that meet up at a particular point, and then they fan out, and you get the experience of a virtual human being or a virtual sound source at that particular space. This is a mouse found at the bottom of our garden. With the help of my colleague Charlie, we scanned this one in. Do you remember that ages ago? And emulated him. This is one of our speaker systems taken to Museum of Science and Industry, where we're showing it off in its prototype form, and we hired a tent for the day, and some young scallies came in, and they're listening to some folk music we were playing, and they're going, oh, old people music and all that sort of stuff. This is at Blue Coat Art Gallery in Liverpool. Took it down there one day, and some kids are experiencing it. That kid's not going to have a very good effect, actually, standing next to the speaker, you'll just hear one speaker. What we actually did was we recorded some people singing and then played it back to them in 3D, and they're pretty amazed by it, which was quite gratifying. This is what we call a virtual environment space. It's called the Octave. You wear shutter glass and you're surrounded in 3D by wacky 3D images. Costs about £1 million to make. We've got one at Salford University, and they asked us to come in and do the speaker system for it. So you have multiple speakers all around, and you play them at the same time as you visualize images. So you've got images and sound together. So you can see, oh, it's probably not very clear actually, but some of the people here are wearing shutter glasses. So the glasses go on, off, on, off, on, off, in sync with images that are slightly different. If you do this with your eyes, you can see the images are different. And we do that together with the rendered soundscape. So you might have seen in that previous picture 128 speakers, or some of the 128 speakers that surround it. So the point is we can recreate soundscapes, and we can recreate, we've just done a paper with another colleague where we recreate the sound of Stonehenge before Stonehenge was kind of demolished and filled with hippies and stuff like that. And we can recreate urban landscapes. I'm working on a project with some Germans at the moment where we use these very sophisticated 3D microphones called Eigen Mics, and we record things like football fields and performances and send all the signals via the internet and render them in these wavefield synthesis systems. So you can imagine you put a 3D microphone in St Anne's Square, stand in our listening room, and you'll experience the soundscape of St Anne's Square. You'll experience things whizzing by you and stuff like that. You'll hear people coming up to the microphone going, "What's that?" and stuff like that. Okay.
Thanks very much.
Cool.